When it comes to professional football, one of the most exciting aspects of the game is the ability to uncork a deep bomb. Well, when it comes to the Detroit Lions offense in 2024, it seems as if they're getting ready to have an air raid style offense, and we're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, so don't you dare go away.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, all Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, we are going to have ourselves a really interesting discussion here, because I'm going to tell you something. Ever since Jared Goff has gotten here to Detroit, perhaps one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest gripes, one of the biggest detractions that people that don't like Jared Goff have talked about is this supposed belief that Jared Goff simply does not have the capability to throw a football deep or to have the ability to uncork bombs. There's like this, I don't know where this whole thought process has come from, but this belief has been long held by several individuals that Jared Goff is just simply not a good deep passer. And I don't understand where it has come from. Now, I'm not here to try and, bash the haters. That's not my intent with this episode. My intent with this episode is to, one, provide evidence that shows that Jared Goff actually is a good deep passer, but also number two, why I believe that in 2024, I fully believe the Detroit Lions are going to become one of the most prolific deep passing offenses. It's almost going to kind of be like an air raid model. So why do I think this? Where exactly am I getting this thought process from? Well, let's take a look at what's been happening in training camp. Let's take a look at what's been happening over the course of this offseason. Ever since the training camp period has happened, we have constantly been hearing about how Jameson Williams has continued to look very damn good in practice. Dan Campbell has said it multiple times that Jameson Williams is probably one of, if not the most progressed players in training camp right now. He talked about how from the OTAs and minicamp to training camp, he has continued to look even more progressed. He's looked more focused. He's looked more comfortable in what he's been able to do at practice. And we are constantly seeing all of these different highlight clips from training camp that show Jameson Williams is constantly showing out. He's making multiple types of catches. He's making deep catches. His footwork looks absolutely stupendous. He absolutely looks the part and ready to start actually being a top-end wide receiver. Now we just have to get him on the field, and now we have to start seeing it happen on game day. But it's not just about Jameson Williams. It's also about the quarterback that's throwing to him, which is Jared Goff. Again, one of the things that has happened quite a lot this offseason is it has become apparently obvious that the Jared Goff-Jameson Williams connection, the chemistry, the camaraderie-ship, and also the ability for them to have just an overall better connection has vastly improved over this offseason, especially in training camp. Again, there have been highlights where we have seen Jared Goff make some absolutely beautiful throws to freaking Jameson Williams. And not only have these throws shown that camaraderie, that chemistry has gotten a lot better, but it's also showing that there is an uptick in the frequency of the deep passing game. We're seeing a lot more deep shots happening in the course of this training camp, which definitely tells me that, okay, if that's something they're practicing, as the old saying goes, you practice the way you're going to play. And if the Lions are definitely looking at opening up more passing options deep, that's a reason why they're practicing it, and that's something I expect to see this season. Now, That also leads us into another aspect that's been talked about this training camp, and that comes directly from Jared Goff himself. Jared Goff was asked specifically if there was one thing he would really like to work on, that he would really like to improve, seeing as how, he's been one of the best quarterbacks for the last couple of years. He just got a 4-year, $212 million contract. He's clearly the franchise quarterback of the Detroit Lions. And Jared Goff highlighted specifically that he wants to improve further his ability to use and heighten his efficiency with using the deep ball, using the deep passing game. So I was like, okay here. Obviously, it is quite plainly obvious that the Lions are trying to open up the deep passing game. Pretty much from what we're seeing at practice, pretty much with the fact that Jameson Williams is opening up his ability to go further deep and Jared Goff is throwing it to him. Jared Goff is talking about it. Okay, there is obviously a clear, concerted effort to get the deep ball more involved in this offense. But I was like, okay here, what exactly do the stats say? What exactly do the analytics say? Because again, when it comes to this conversation of what is considered a deep ball, what's considered a bomb, what's considered all this nonsense, it is very damn subjective. Some people consider a bomb a 40 to 50 yard ball that is being thrown all the way down the field. Some people, like myself, will consider a deep pass something that is 20 yards or more. Again, depending upon who you talk to, it gets very, very gray very damn fast. So I was like, okay here, what does PFF say? I may not always agree with PFF. In fact, I rarely do. But PFF is considered the gold standard by the NFL because NFL teams, NFL scouts, NFL coaches, they use it when they're talking about how players can get better. And according to PFF, a deep pass is considered a throw of 20 yards or more. So we're not talking about bombs here. However, though, that's definitely something that the Lions are clearly, obviously looking to improve here. But I was like, okay here, let's take a look at how Jared Goff has done over the last 2 years with the Detroit Lions. Because I'm not going to try and count 2021. 2021 was pretty much one of those seasons where it's like, hey, the Lions, they were trying to figure themselves out. So that's not even a fair parameter. So let's talk about 2022 and 2023 because that was number one when Ben Johnson came onto the scene. That was number two when the Detroit Lions first got a somewhat decent deep option in DJ Chark. So I'm like, okay here, let's take a look at how the Detroit Lions under Jared Goff looked in terms of deep ball throws from 2022 to 2023. Here's what Jared Goff did in 2022 in regards to deep passing. This comes specifically from PFF. In fact, all of the stats that we're primarily going to talk about today come from PFF. According to PFF, in 2022, for deep ball throws that were 20 yards or more, we're talking about Jared Goff having 23 of 55, 41.8 completion percent, 723 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with a 104.2 passer rating. He had 13 big-time throws, according to PFF, and he had an 84.9 deep passing grade, according to PFF. If you take a look at all the rankings out of all the other quarterbacks, and this is based off of a quarterback being able to have 50% or more of the maximum attempts that was made by a single quarterback, which Jared Goff had. Jared Goff ranked pretty much within the top half, almost towards the top 10 mark. There were some areas that were a little bit lower, but we're talking about a guy that's definitely within the top half of the league, almost towards the top 10 mark here. So that's 2022. Now we go to 2023. In 2023, this is how Jared Goff performed. He had 23 completions out of 46 attempts. That's 50%. He had 788 passing yards, 5 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He had a 95.8 passer rating on deep throws. He had 11 big-time throws with a 92.7 deep passing grade, according to PFF. Again, when you take a look at the rankings, according to PFF and according to the parameter that I set up, which is 50% of the maximum attempts by the quarterback in this category, Jared Goff is once again in the top half of the league. And he's just outside of, again, top 10 category. So what we can clearly see here between 2022 and 2023 is that Jared Goff was pretty damn good at tossing deep balls. Now, that's not to say that he was a top 10. He wasn't a top 5, but he was just outside of top 10. So he was still pretty damn good. And it also shows that the Lions have no problem using Jared Goff to throw deep passes. They obviously are very comfortable with him, and obviously the rankings show that Jared Goff is pretty damn good at what he does so far within the Lions offense. But Jared Goff, like I said, He specifically says that he wants to improve. Well, it's like, okay here, if you're almost a top 10 quarterback in this category, you're just outside of it, how much further can you realistically improve? What exactly can you get better at in terms of this ability? In order to answer that question, I had to go back to Jared Goff's Rams days, and I went back specifically to 2017 and 2018. And let me tell you something. In 2017 and 2018, there were few quarterbacks that were better than Jared Goff when it came to uncorking the deep ball. Let's take a look at how Jared Goff was in 2017 with the Los Angeles Rams. Take a look at this. In 2017, Jared Goff had 20 completions for 56 attempts. Only a 35.7 completion percent, but that was still top 10 in that category. He had 767 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception with a 100.3 passer rating, 18 big-time throws, and a 90.4 passing grade. Again, you take a look at all of those rankings, Jared Goff is virtually a top 10 in terms of deep ball passing in 2017. And again, he was drafted in 2016, so 1 year after he was drafted, he was already considered a top 10 deep ball thrower. But 2017 was kind of like his opening salvo, if you will. I'm going to keep using bombing expressions just to kind of get you all in the mindset here. Because in 2018, he completely unloaded. Take a look at his production in 2018. In 2018, Jared Goff had 29 completions for 65 attempts, again in deep ball throwing. He had a 44.6 completion percentage rate, top 5. 975 yards, top 10. 9 passing touchdowns, top 10. 98.9 passer rating, just outside of top 10. 20 big-time throws, just outside of top 10. 94.7 deep passing grade, inside top 10. You take a look at what Jared Goff was doing in 2017 and 2018, Jared Goff was one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. There's no way you can try to argue this point. So going back to what I said at the very beginning of this episode, this idea that Jared Goff is unable to play deep or able to throw the ball deep is pure lunacy. I just disproved it with the facts. This comes from PFF, the gold standard for analytics. So anybody that wants to continue to argue that Jared Goff cannot throw the ball deep according to the gold standard analytics company, they seriously need to have their heads examined. But again, let's talk about this. Jared Goff in 2022 and 2023 was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. But like I just showed, in 2017 and 2018, he was on a whole nother damn level. And that prompts the question, why? What exactly in 2018 and 17 was missing from, the 2022-2023 area? Here's the answer. Pretty much the answer, a reliable deep threat receiving option. Because obviously Jared Goff has been behind one of the best offensive lines over the last couple of years. So it's not for a lack of offensive linemen. It's also not for a lack of a good offensive scheme. It's because he doesn't have a reliable deep receiving option. And I'll prove it to you right now. Think about this, folks. If you go to 2018, when he really was at the top of his powers and throwing the deep ball, who was his primary deep throwing option? That was Brandon Cooks. Well, think about who Jared Goff has had to throw to as a deep throwing option primarily here in Detroit. In 2022, he had DJ Chark. DJ Chark had the speed, he had the size. But his problem was he couldn't stay healthy very long. So that's not reliable. And then also in 2022, we had Jamo. But Jamo was out for 2/3 of the year with an injury. And then he was out for 1/3 of the year in 2023 with the whole gambling suspension. And Jamo was still trying to learn the offense. So again, not very reliable. But here's the thing. If you take a look at these plays, I'm going to show you something here. Take a look at some of these highlights from 2017 and 2018 of Jared Goff throwing the ball. You're just going to see that Jared Goff, some of these are coming off of play action, which, as we already know, Jared Goff is a play action maestro. The guy is surgical in play action. But what you're clearly going to see is Jared Goff is constantly throwing deep passes to different types of receivers, whether it's to freaking Brandon Cooks, whether it is to his tight ends, whether it's also to Cooper Kupp. It doesn't matter who they're throwing it to, but having a reliable deep option definitely helped. Well, let's think about this once we've looked at all those plays, and now let's put it in comparison to the Detroit Lions here. Why do I now think then, in 2024, the Detroit Lions are going to have an absolutely stupendous deep passing game? Here's why. Again, in 2018, Jared Goff's primary deep ball option was Brandon Cooks. Well, who's his primary deep ball option this year? It's definitely Jameson Williams. Well, here's what I'm going to say. Jameson Williams is better than Brandon Cooks because he's got better size. I honestly think he's faster than Cooks was. And here's the main difference. Brandon Cooks was much older than Jameson Williams is. And let's also understand something here. In 2018, that was pretty much the first year that Jared Goff and Brandon Cooks had been together because the Rams made the trade with the Patriots that offseason. Jared Goff has been working with Jameson Williams now for actually going on almost 2.5 years. So there's more chemistry. Like I said, Jameson Williams is younger. He's faster. I honestly think he's more explosive. And here's the biggest reason. Jameson Williams has got a damn chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder. He's got a lot of people he is trying to prove wrong because there have been a lot of people that have said he's a bust. There's a lot of people that are saying he's been immature. There's a lot of people that have been dogging on him ever since he got drafted. I guarantee you he has a lot of pent-up frustration he wants to take out on that football field. And that's going to motivate him. So that's reason number one why I think in 2024 the Lions are going to have a deep ball passing game that's going to rival everybody's. Here's reason number two. Again, when you take a look at 2017 and 2018, Jared Goff had just been in the league only, 2-3 years? So he was still kind of learning the quarterback position. Here we are now in 2024. Jared Goff is almost to 30 years old. He is significantly much more seasoned. He is much more experienced. What does that mean? Well, when you take a look at what Jared Goff is doing in 2022 and 2023, and I'm going to put some highlights up, Jared Goff is much more comfortable. He's much more confident in himself. And you can see it in the types of throws that he's having. He's not having to take deep shots all the damn time. But when he uncorks the ball, he's definitely confident. He's not worried about where that ball's going. And having that confidence in himself also means he's got confidence in the control of the offense because at this point, Jared Goff controls the offense. Ben Johnson calls the plays, Jared Goff runs it. And then on top of that, think about this. The offense that Jared Goff has here in Detroit is much better overall than the offense that he had in the LA Rams days in 2018. He's got better offensive linemen. He's got a running back tandem instead of just one solid running back in the backfield. He's got multiple receiving options that are honestly better than what he had in 2018. And here's the other thing. Jared Goff's experience that he has garnered over the last couple of years since those days allows him to understand defenses better, which means he understands the offense better and how to attack defenses. So again, Jared Goff is able to think 3 or 4 steps ahead and be able to find the best play, the best position to put himself in to take advantage of defenses. Then, let's think about this as well. Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams is now going into his 3rd year in the NFL. But there's very little NFL film on him because he's not been used a whole lot because, again, he's been learning the offense. He's been having to deal with some adversity, whether it's been the injury or whether it's been the gambling suspension. But there's not a whole lot of NFL film on him as far as what he does. There's some film, but not nearly as much as you would like to have at this point for a guy that's been in the NFL for 3 years. Which means this, most defensive coordinators don't know what the hell to expect from him, which makes this a much bigger advantage for the Lions than when Goff was back with the Rams. Because Cooks was a solid veteran at that point. Everybody knew what to expect out of Cooks. They knew his tendencies. Nobody knows Jameson Williams' tendencies at this point because there's not enough film on him to know that. But here's the biggest thing that really makes me think this. It's the coordinating. It's the coaching. When you take a look at the coaching back with the Rams, Sean McVay didn't give Jared Goff the freedom, the ability to run the offense that Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell do. Pretty much what Sean McVay did is he was a dictator, heavy emphasis on the first part of that word. He was a dictator to Jared Goff and said, this is what you're going to do. I don't care what your thought process is. You're going to run my offense the way I want you to run it. That's not the way it works here in Detroit. Pretty much the Lions, through Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, have said to Jared Goff, hey, we're going to tell you what play we're going to run, but you have an immense amount of freedom. When you go up to the line, if you see something you don't like, you've got 3 to 4 plays where you can change it, you can check it, you can go wherever you want. That is significantly much more freedom. It's much more autonomy than what Sean McVay ever gave Jared Goff. And that allows Jared Goff the ability to play much more loose and have much more ability to do what is comfortable for him rather than just what Sean McVay wanted him to be, which was a puppet on a string. Which I will give Jared Goff this. For how much limitations Sean McVay gave him, he did an absolute masterful job. But ever since Jared Goff has been here, we have seen a Jared Goff that Sean McVay could have never envisioned. That's why I'm saying, when you take a look at the film that I put out on this episode, when you take a look at the stats and the analytics that I put out on this episode, when you take a look at the reasoning that I put out on this episode, to me it is painfully obvious that the Lions are getting set to be one of the best deep ball passing units in the NFL going into 2024. They have the offense, they have the quarterback, they have the coaching. It's all there, and they're practicing it in training camp. They're getting ready to literally unleash this kind of a passing attack on the NFL. And I don't think a lot of teams are quite ready for it. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this because this is something that I was really thinking about, and I loved it, and I wanted to talk about it. So you guys tell me what you guys think. But having said that, I'm going to end the episode and say thank y'all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also encourage y'all to watch any previous content that I've pushed out. I also want to encourage y'all please to subscribe to the channel, because subscribing to the channel is really helpful for me, and I'm thankful for every subscription I can get my hands on. But also, after you subscribe, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Again, we want you guys coming back to the channel as much as possible, because it really helps the channel grow and spread and get more viewership in here. And that is something that we're really struggling with right now. So let's make sure we take care of that. Also, to help in that, share the content. Again, the more we can share it, that also helps the spreading. That also helps the ability for this channel to have a better reach. So again, share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope y'all enjoyed the content. I hope y'all are having a great day. I hope y'all got something that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.